Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book The Chaplain's War by Brad R Torgersen. This is a book from Baen Books, a publisher I really enjoy reading from, and Brad Torgersen is an author that I found on Twitter because he has some very interesting takes. His Twitter feed is entertaining. That's the way I'll put it. His Twitter feed is entertaining. And so I picked up this book because I was interested in reading it, and it was a delightful, delightful book for me. I don't know if it's going to work for everyone. This might be a book that is a bit of an acquired taste, but boy, did it work for me, and I loved it. So let me get into why. The basic premise of this book is that there has become a big war between the humans of Earth and our colonies and this alien species called the mantis, which is this insectoid species that is that is expanding into the universe in what they call the fourth expansion. And they have captured some settlements, including an Earth settlement where this man named Harrison Barlow, is there. He is a chaplain in the military, and he's actually not a chaplain, he's the chaplain's assistant in the military, and the chaplain is dead, and so he's basically taken over the roles of the chaplain, and he is basically trying to just keep morale okay on the settlement that's now controlled by the mantis. And also the mantis start asking him religious questions. And this all leads to a eventual ceasefire that he is able to negotiate. And so the whole book is about trying to stop the war, trying to protect the humans, while also perhaps protecting the insectoids, and it all happens through religion. He ends up having great conversations in this book about the various Earth religions and why faith and religion are so important to society. Again, some people will not like this book and they will not like this premise, so it's just not going to work for them. But for me, it was super entertaining because these are topics I really find fascinating. And this book, like the themes about the importance for religion and faith in your beliefs are good enough on their own, in my opinion, for the book. But then the book also has entertainment factors. There is some action. There's some great plotting going on in the book. You really start to feel for the characters. There's also some themes of the reluctant hero's journey. This character really fits into the reluctant hero's journey. There's also just some great descriptions of world building and some great military stuff. Now, the one thing that worked for me the least in this book is the military stuff. We follow Harrison as he first joins the military in some flashbacks in the book, and that takes place that takes up a substantial amount of the book, and the military stuff is just not naturally something I'm inclined to. I'm not inclined to seeing what boot camp is like. I'm not inclined to see how soldiers treat each other in the barracks. That's just not something I love reading about in books. That being said, Brad Torgersen does a great job of portraying this in the book. And so it's as entertaining, I think, as you could make it for someone who's not interested in it. But that was the least interesting part. The main plot line of the book was much more interesting to me, and the themes of the main plot line were much more interesting. But the flashbacks were well done, were well written, which is why the book works so well for me and is one of my top books of the year. Brad is a Mormon himself, but he writes a main character who is not Mormon, and he's actually, despite the fact that he's a chaplain's assistant, is not really religious at all. And you might think, how's that possible? There's an explanation in the book, and it's quite clever. But you see his journey to a faith. I won't specify much, but you see the main character's journey to a faith, and it's just kind of interesting to me. It's also funny to have the main character have different views of Mormonism that are very different from Brad's views of Mormonism, and so it's funny to see him write from such a different perspective. but the main character Harrison Barlow is really fascinating to read about. The main plot line is interesting to read about. This is what's called a fix-up book, which means that it was originally written from kind of some short stories and stuff, and then it was kind of stitched together and some stuff added, some stuff taken out. And he talks a little bit about the process in the foreword of the book. You read a little bit about which short story and which novella were used and when they came out and all this stuff. And the short story, it's obvious this was the short story that was the original. And then for the novella, I think I know what was the novella, but I actually don't specifically, because it could be the flashbacks from the military, or it could be the flash forward, the modern day stuff, the stuff that happens later on. So I don't actually know what the novella is. But regardless, it actually works well as a novel. It reads like a 3-part novel. Part 1 is really short, Part 2 is decent sized, and Part 3 is also decent sized. In trade paperback, it's like 350 pages, but if it came out in mass market, it'd be over 400. It's not a long read. I was able to get it done in 2 days, partially because I was so riveted by it, but also because it's not terribly long. But I really enjoyed this book. There is so much to unpack with this book. It's a very thematically dense book while still having great action, great plot lines, great story going along. And so when you can get thematically dense and you can also get great storylines, you've got just an amazing book for me. Again, I think that some people this book will not work for them because of the nature of the religious stuff in it, but it worked for me absolutely. I wish there had been less language in the book, because he's depicting the military, and the military is notably crass. I wish there was less of that. It's not as bad as some other books I've read, but it could have been less. It could have been less. So that's my review of The Chaplain's War by Brad R Torgersen. I loved this book. Definitely going to show up in my favorite books of the year. I can't wait to read more from him. I have a book of his that I am expecting to get soon, so I'm very excited to read that. So if you've read The Chaplain's War, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.